Hey folks, this is Lindsey Boes with Boes Therapy Services based out of Littleton, Colorado. The question of the day for the Ask the Therapist series is, should step-parents be the caregiver and or disciplinarian for the kids of the spouse? So I think this is a really great question. I've had lots of couples come in and talk with me to figure out this sort of topic and struggle, so I think it's a really great question to ask. Before we get started, just as a disclaimer that this video is not a representation or a replacement for mental health care. So if you are noticing some struggles in your family relationship, your couple relationship, romantic relationships in general, or mental health, then please see a therapist or a mental health provider that you trust. So a few things that I wanted to get into and cover before giving suggestions for step parents is to just give a little bit of context around step families and blended families in general. And as a member of a very blended family, I think context is important to understand this particular family structure. So the first thing is that most struggles within step families happen within the first 2 years. So after the first 2 years on average, of being a little bit more rocky, then the family dynamics and the relationships tend to even out a little bit. Children in post-divorce families and relationships tend to experience some school problems, specifically with grades and tardiness and just truancy in general, depression, conduct disorders. I know that when my parents divorced, I was 17. I definitely had some symptoms of depression and definitely struggled in school, which is not typical for myself. So it's definitely something that came because of family things. This makes sense. All of these struggles make sense considering how much change the family and especially the kids go through. So there's change in socioeconomic status. Most divorced mothers make significantly less post-divorce than they do before the divorce occurs. Then we also have other parents having not only mothers, but all parents have child support, and you have to do the transportation. There's just a lot of extra expenses that go along with having children in shared families and in shared homes, different homes. We have new family members, new schools, new possible siblings. Divorce and remarriage, there's so many transitions and kids need structure. So it makes sense that there's going to be some behavioral problems going on for a lot of kids. Something that I think is really important for step parents to keep in mind is that most of the conflict that happens for the children whose parents are getting a divorce, most of their problems and most of their conflict comes from their biological parents arguing, not from the addition of a step parent. So keep that in mind, that if you're the step parent and you're noticing that your stepchild has a lot of struggles or is worrying about a lot of things, or maybe reclusing, or there seem to be behavioral issues, that it's probably not because of you, that it's probably because of the remnants of divorce, and that divorce isn't really typically a pretty thing, and seeing your parents argue and have a lot of conflict is not healthy for the child. And so it's probably that's causing the behavioral issues, not you as a person. So try not to take that personally. There are also a lot of pros for blended families. So the big one is resiliency, that kids who grow up in blended families learn how to be okay and how to deal with change. They learn how to be flexible. They learn how to understand different points of view. They have the opportunity for new role models, and they get to see their parents be happy in a relationship. And for a lot of children of divorce, they haven't had the opportunity to see their parents in a happy relationship with each other or not. And having a new spouse and a step parent really provides the child, hopefully, the opportunity to see a healthy relationship and see their parent in a healthy relationship, which then provides them the opportunity to have a model of a healthy relationship to use as an adult. That if their only model for relationships as children is in conflict between their parents, then they'll probably learn how to have relationships with conflict. But having a new relationship with a new spouse where there's not as much conflict actually can be really good for the kids later in life. So now that we've gone through some more of the context pieces, I can provide 5 tips that I have for step parents. This is going to be different based on all sorts of different factors, so keep your own context in mind, that socioeconomic status, the age of children, how long you've been seeing their parent, how many children there are, if you have your own children, if the other parent has a new spouse as well. Okay, step number 1 is to talk with your partner and your partner's ex-partner and potentially your partner's ex-partner's new partner. If you are a stepmother, for example, in a heterosexual family, I'm just going to use that as an example, that if you are a stepmother, to talk with your partner, the biological father, the biological mother, and then if possible, the biological mother's partner as well, if biological mom has a partner. So that way all parents are present and represented, and I would highly, highly recommend to get on board with the biological parents in terms of discipline, diet, bedtime, if the kids are old enough, dating, schoolwork, extracurriculars, get on their team. So become familiar with their rules and their expectations for the kids and adapt those. It's not about you putting your own input in, it's about you saying, okay, there's no such thing as ex-parents, there's ex-wives, there's ex-husbands, there's ex-partners, ex-spouses. You don't become an ex-parent through divorce. And so because the stepchildren they're not losing a parent, that's just that the parents are in different homes. So it's not your job to come in and change what the parents' rules are for their children. It's your job to come in and support those rules. So rule number 2 is to be an ally, not a friend. So again, it's not even really being a parent. Your job is to support the biological parents and their rules, and to support your partner first and foremost. And then after that, to be an ally to your stepchild, but you are not deciding punishments or rewards, or if they can get highlights or piercings or whatever. Like that's not your job. Your job is to be someone that they can go to for support, and so you can support them and you can support your partner, but it's not to be the primary caregiver. So similar to that, step 3 or suggestion number 3 is to show respect and kindness for your stepchild and to support them, but also first and foremost support your partner and their parenting decisions. So again, if you're a stepmother and you know that your partner gave a discipline to the stepchild and the stepchild comes to you and is like, oh my God, this is so unfair. You can say, I hear how that's a struggle for you, and I'm sorry that this is a struggle, but I'm supporting your dad. Like, that's it. Like, I can hear you and I can hear how frustrated you are, but I'm not going to challenge him and I'm not going to say I'll go talk to him for you. I'm here to listen. So along those lines is to stay away from getting involved in conflict between the 2 biological parents or between the child and the parent. So if again, like the example that I gave, if the child is pissed off at the parent, don't get involved and say, oh, well, I'll talk to them for you. Or if your partner is in a fight with their ex-partner over parenting, don't get in the middle and try to share your 2 cents. Just support your partner. And then secondarily, support the child. And the last one is something that I see happening all the time, and it's just not helpful. And it's when parents or co-parents or step-parents have discussions or arguments about the kids in terms of what they're allowed to do, who they're allowed to go with, what time they have to be back, what the curfew is, like any parenting decisions. Don't have them in front of the kid. So one, this could show conflict, which, as I mentioned earlier, parent conflict is not healthy for children. It's not that divorce is unhealthy, it's that conflict is unhealthy. So don't have arguments in front of the children ever about the children. Second of all, it helps the kids at a certain age. They can start to tell, who do I need to work on here to get what I want? Kids are very creative at getting their needs met. I don't need to tell any parents that, you already know. So don't give them anything else to use in terms of who am I going to use to get my needs met, even if I know it's against the rules. So if you're having a discussion, if you don't know what the answer is, just say, you know, we'll talk about it later and we'll let you know, or I'll talk to your mom, I'll talk to your dad, and we'll get back to you. But don't have those arguments or discussions in front of the children. So again, like I said, this is all to be taken within context, that this might have a very specific family structure in mind. Typically when we think of blended families, we think of the same race, same religion, same class, and not all blended families are the same or homogenous in that way. So keep in mind that your family might have different culture, your family might have different resources, different socioeconomic status. They might be in different parts of the country. You might not be living with your stepfamily or your stepchildren. You might have your own exes and blended family to be concerned about as well. So just be aware that context is really, really important. But these are some helpful hints. I also posted or will post some links. The Psychology Today link I think was especially helpful and has really great information. So I'm going to post, I think it's 5 different resources if you want to keep reading and keep learning. If you have any follow-up questions, please let me know at lindsey.boes@gmail.com. Thanks so much.